Good evening and welcome to the Fleetwood Park Secondary Grade 9 and 10 virtual parent information presentation. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ken Hignell, principal at Fleetwood Park, and I would like to introduce our vice principals, Mr. Karinzik, Mr. Thibault, and Ms. Duff. I'd like to begin with the Aboriginal Territorial Acknowledgement. We take this opportunity to acknowledge the shared traditional territory of the Coast Salish people on which we are fortunate to work, learn, and play, and on which Fleetwood Park is located. We acknowledge the Katzie, Semiahmoo, and Kwantlen First Nations. And we also recognize the diverse population of people who have come to the Surrey School District and Fleetwood Park Secondary and contribute to our rich, dynamic culture. Thank you for joining us this evening, everyone. Our agenda includes a review of the British Columbia curriculum, core and curricular competencies, provincial assessment, graduation requirements, course selection, post-secondary planning, and an overview of scholarships. To begin, I'd like to review the organization of our case managers for the school year. Beginning with our vice principals. Our vice principals' portfolios are organized alphabetically. Mr. Karinzik supports students whose last names end from A to H. Mr. Thibault supports students' last names I to P, and Ms. Duff supports students' last names Q to Z. Our counseling team also coordinates their portfolios alphabetically. Ms. Porter, our department head, A to E, Mr. Juicy, F to K, Ms. Carey, L to R, and Mr. Crema, S to Z. And then the same thing with our LST team. Ms. Snowden, A to E, Ms. Park, F to, sorry, I can hardly see it, K, Ms. Brar, L to R, and Ms. Prue, S to Z. In addition, we have additional support staff to support the needs of our students. So Mr. Walsh is our Indigenous graduation coordinator. Ms. Aikita supports our international students. Ms. Sulkeld, our basis students, and Mr. Reddy, also our basis students in our LSB program. So there is a wide range of support for our students and case management, our students are fortunate to receive a really high level of support, grade 8 through grade 12. And so with that, your children are entering into the graduation program years. And so this is an important time for them. And so this presentation is really designed to be forward-looking over the next 3 years in terms of the courses that are required and that are available as they move from secondary school into post-secondary. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Thibault to talk about the British Columbia curriculum.
Yeah, so over the past 5 years, BC has seen a shift in its curriculum, and that's been implemented fully by this point. If you have any further questions or wanting to look into things, the BC curriculum website that's up on the screen right now is a great resource. You'll be able to access any courses that are the core courses and look into further what their specific needs are. When it comes to core competencies, these apply to all of our courses, and it's quite broad. In terms of communication, that's assessing students' ability to engage, share, and discuss both their experiences and their ideas. Thinking, we think of more development and ability to apply critical and creative thinking processes. And when it comes to personal and social, we're talking about positive identity as well as personal and social awareness and responsibility within the community. And these are going to be addressed through each and every course that your students will take. So in terms of these core competencies, these are assessed through generally self-reflection on the part of their students. At the grade 8 and 9 level, that is addressed through our career education course, which does show up on their schedule, but isn't a course that is actually within each student's timetable. Mr. Erb oversees that, and there is a mark that's attached to that course, but the students complete those assessments and self-reflections through their other courses. And it's kind of the hub for overseeing these core competencies. The core competencies, as I said, are applied across all of the different courses that they take in high school, and are seen to manifest themselves uniquely through each discipline. And this is an example of what our curriculum looks like. This is what teachers use as a baseline for the development of their courses. As you can see at the top, and this would be accessible for you if you wanted to look up any of the curricular courses on the website that we already looked at. At the top are big ideas. And so those are broken up between 4 to 6, depending on the course that we're looking at, and kind of the main things that the students are going to address in that course. When you go into the curricular competencies, these are more specific goals or structures that the students are going to address as they work through the course. So you can see here in English language arts, being able to recognize the complexities of digital citizenship is a curricular competency that they will be assessed on in some way. And then you can see the content is the way in which the students will access that curricular competencies throughout the course that they're working through. So
I'll just jump on and share that the curriculum for all courses is laid out the same way, which is a really nice feature of the current curriculum, is that, there's a commonality to how it's shared. So, and with that, I'll take over here with a discussion about some specific courses and then graduation requirements. And so, as Ms. Duff will share later, your children, for 3/4 of the people watching, will have actually completed their course selection, and the final quarter are doing it this week. And so there are some important decisions to make, and we sort of categorize those in 2 ways. One is addressing graduation requirements, and the other is addressing post-secondary needs if necessary for students. One of the most common decisions that students struggle to make is the decision about which math course to take, because the implication of what a student selects in grade 10 can affect how grade 11 and 12 go for them. There are no decisions that can't be undone, but to do that requires a high amount of work. And so on this slide, it shows the sort of most common pathways for students to complete their math education. When we talk about grad requirements, you'll see that students need to take up to grade 11, and that the grade 12 courses are specifically for those who are interested or who need them for post-secondary. But what we wanted to highlight is that if a student takes, for example, Workplace 10, it is not reasonable for them to go directly to Foundations 11. And so the decision to take Workplace or not can have implications on the grade 11 and 12 years. And so for students who are considering post-secondary school that is not trade school, so college or university, the most common advice from counselors will be to take Foundations or Pre-Calc at the grade 11 level, which means taking Foundations and Pre-Calc 10. There are options and programs for students who choose Workplace, but what we would not recommend is what's sort of highlighted here, crossing horizontally across this grid. So if a student did take Workplace 10, but then later learned they needed Foundations 11, we would advise them to take Foundations and Pre-Calc 10 before taking Foundations 11. The main reason is that the learning that happens in Foundations and Pre-Calc 10 is very important for success in Foundations 11. And so there are very few instances where something like this happens. Most students are advised and make the correct decisions in grade 10. But if your child does need support in terms of reconsidering math pathways, please ask them to speak with their school counselor, potentially their math teacher if they're currently in a math course, but make sure they're getting support in terms of forging a path forward. So it's just really important to make those decisions carefully. In the presentations that we've had with course selection with students, we've been really, really clear about what it means in terms of the decisions that students are making, and we've provided some resources that Ms. Duff will go over to discuss ways to make the most informed decision around what math to take. The other consideration, of course, is what math makes the most sense in terms of learning for your child. And so math teachers will often advise students on what they think the best fit for the next math level is. And so we think that, those teachers are spending 5 months with your children, teaching them and assessing them. And so they are usually in the best position to advise where students should go next. So we encourage families and students to take that advice carefully. Part of graduation in British Columbia in terms of the current graduation requirements are 3 provincial assessments. For the last several years, Numeracy 10 and Literacy 10 assessments have taken place. They were scheduled this year to take place in January, but as you likely heard, all of the January exam sessions were postponed or canceled. We don't have any updated information about whether or not those will be done later in the school year or not, but as soon as we do learn about that, we will reach out to the students in grade 10 to complete that. This was supposed to be the first year for the Literacy 12 assessment, but it was also canceled in January, and we are unsure about whether or not that will be completed within this school year for the current grade 12s. But I would say it's pretty safe to assume that current grade 9s and 10s, the people who this presentation is intended for, will have that Literacy 12 assessment take place. And so these are assessments that are not connected to course grades. They're not connected to courses. And really, they are meant to take like a holistic global assessment of student numeracy, so math sense skills, and literacy, so reading and writing skills at the grade 10, and then for literacy at the grade 12 level. The marks or the assessments for these are not connected to course grades, which means that they are separately reported. They're required for graduation, but for the purposes of graduation, there are no minimum marks required. However, this school year, we have learned that some post-secondary schools are taking a look at these. And so we would always advise students to do their best whenever they're doing any sort of activity at school. But I think this school year has refocused all of our students and staff to knowing that it's really important that students do their best on these. And so we will present more information as we learn more about when those assessments will be available. But for now, just know that they exist and they must be completed. This is a graduation requirement sheet. This is the top half. We'll do the second half in a moment, but it's available on our school website and it was distributed to students through the course selection process. There are extra copies available in the counseling area and at the office if students want to work through it. We highly recommend students go through this to make sure that they are planning accordingly and meeting the requirements for graduation. It's a pretty straightforward process, basically just looking for whenever there's something that says one of or required, students have to take those. And so at the grade 10 level, students must complete 1 English course, 1 math course, 1 science course, and 1 socials course. For science and socials, there are actually no choices. There are just the standard courses. At the grade 11 level, basically all of those departments, all of those disciplines still require a single course to be completed, with math, science, and social studies actually having grade 12 courses count as a requirement. So there's more flexibility in what students can select. And then finally, for English, English Studies 12 is a required course without any other choices available at our school. So, well, that's actually an important note as well. These are the courses that are currently offered at Fleetwood Park. If your child takes learning online or is coming to us from another school or goes to another school, there may be other options available. But we're really proud that this year our school is offering more courses than ever. We're really hoping that we hear what students would like to take and as a result can build courses that reflect that. This is the bottom half of the same sheet, and it describes the remaining course requirements. And so in grade 10, 11, or 12, a student must take 1 applied skills or 1 art course. So it's only 1 course in 3 years that's required. So it's not one that happens very often in terms of being an issue for students. This is the minimum. We encourage students to consider what they're passionate about, what brings them joy, what they enjoy doing, and what they find is something that is a different pace perhaps than some of the other courses they're taking. But in terms of graduation, just 1 of them is required. We have 2 careers courses that are both just required. There's CLE or Career Life Education 10 and Career Life Connections 12, which students can take in grade 11 or 12. For PHE or physical and health education, there's a choice between normal PHE and fitness and healthy lifestyles. Fitness and healthy lifestyles being the option where students who are not as interested in playing sports or games and more interested in personal health, that's an option for them. It's been very popular over the last few years. If you look at all of the check boxes up to now, there have been 13 that have been required. And in terms of total number of courses required for graduation, the minimum is 20. That means that there are 7 other courses that students must complete at the grade 10, 11, and 12 level. And specifically, in total, there must be 4 grade 12 courses. But when you consider English Studies 12 and CLC 12, that means that of the last 7 courses, there must be 2 that are grade 12 numbered. These are not usually issues for students in terms of graduation. It's often having difficulty in some of the grade 10 or 11 academic courses and having to retake them. That's sort of the number one issue when we look at why students are not in a position to graduate. We encourage all students to work through this sheet. If you have questions or if they have questions, to connect with their school counselors and hopefully choose courses wisely that allow them to fulfill the requirements here. There are spaces for more electives. In total, most students take more than 20 courses from grade 10 to 12. Often it's 24, which is full course loads in all 3 grades. And then there's students who take X blocks and all sorts of other things, and many students graduate with more than 24 even. But this sheet basically describes and shows the minimum in terms of graduation requirements. I'll turn it over to Ms. Duff to talk about course selection.
Thanks, Mr. Krinzik. Course selection for our grade 9s going into grade 10 and also for our 10s going into 11 is almost completed. The counselors and administrators have visited the grade 9 and 10 classes to give them information about course selection, and your students have actually entered their course selections already into MyEd. I will assume that many of you have had conversations with your students about these choices that they made. We then reviewed the course selections, brought them back verifications for the grade 9s, and checked to make sure that they had completed course selections. What will happen next is if you have not seen the courses that your student has put into their course selection, you can ask them to see it in MyEd. And if there's any questions or concerns, please raise them with your student's counselor. Okay, course description. So if your student has picked a course and you think, oh, what exactly is that course? And you're curious about reading more about it, I highly recommend looking on the Fleetwood Park website under About the School. Under courses, you will find the grade 10 through 12 course booklet that describes all of the courses that we offer from grades 10 through 12. And really, this, I cannot recommend enough reading the course description for each of the courses that you've chosen, especially those elective classes that are very, very specific and have, they give you a lot of key information in the booklet about what's going to happen in the course. And so students will come to us and say to their counselors or to their VP, and they'll say, I don't want to be in this class because I didn't realize that I was going to have to bake something in this pastry class. And we'll think, well, that was really clearly laid out in the course selection booklet. So it is really important that you read what about the courses that you have said on your request that you want to take, because we will not be able to make changes later. We build our timetable based on the selections that our students make. And so if 200 kids say that they want to take biology or life sciences 11, then we're going to build enough space for that many students. And then if later on those students all decide, no, wait, it's actually chemistry 11 that I need, we won't have room for them in those classes. So it is very, very important that you pick carefully and that you understand that we will be unable to make changes later. You pick these courses, this is what you get. So please keep that in mind. And that's why we highly recommend you also looking over the choices that your student has made. So another important note is all ELL students or English language learners, our BASIS students and our LST students have case managers or teachers that kind of oversee their selections. And so if you have specific concerns, you have an ELL student or BASIS student or a student that has LST needs, then I highly recommend contacting your case manager to ask their questions, because they do really very much work together with the counselors when they're making the schedules for these students, especially. And lastly for me, lastly for me, post-secondary education planning, really, really important. And I know it's hard to imagine. You look at your 14, 15-year-old kid and you think it's hard to imagine just a few years from now when they're going off potentially to do further education, maybe away from home or at one of our local institutions. But it is important to start thinking about this. And you may not be ready when you're going into grade 10, but definitely as you're going into grade 11, there's some big decisions that you're going to make that are going to count for when you go into post-secondary. So it is important for students and parents to understand that you do need to do some research into the post-secondary program and the requirements of that program and that institution on your own. There's so many different places that students can go and so many different programs that you can do at these institutions. So using this amazing tool that is created by the BC government to help you in your planning is key. The website is called educationplannerbc.ca, and the next page shows you a little bit about how it looks. The key is to go to search and search undergraduate, and then you will be able to put in a specific interest or a subject that you're thinking maybe you want to attend, and it will then show you all the different institutions where you could do that subject. And then when you click on it, it will also show you what the required classes are that you're going to need to have, and potentially even a little bit of general information to kind of help you make that decision. So this is a really great tool. Most students will be familiar with this tool because it is a tool that they use in their CLE and their CLC classes. But just so that you know, it's also just a great tool for parents to assist kids in making huge decisions that they're going to be making in the next few years if they know that they want to continue their education after high school. And that's it for me. Mr. Hignall's going to finish us off. Thanks.
All right, speaking of post-secondary planning, this next topic is an important one, and that is scholarships. So as your children are entering their graduation program years, now is the time to start thinking about potential scholarships for the future to help to fund their post-secondary education. And I'm pleased to let everybody know that there are many, many scholarships that are available. And in fact, oftentimes, scholarships go unclaimed. And so I would, again, strongly recommend that students do their research and seek out scholarships both for curricular areas and extracurricular areas. And in fact, post-secondary institutes really are looking for well-rounded students who have been involved for several years in a variety of activities, whether that be community-based, school-based, volunteerism, service, athletics, and then of course the academics. So now is a great time to start thinking about laying the foundation for your future applications for scholarships. And a great person to meet here at the school that helps students go through that process is Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson is our scholarship coordinator. He compiles available scholarships and communicates those available scholarships to the students. He will have regular meetings to try and support students as they complete the application forms. Mr. Johnson puts together this really comprehensive list of scholarships on his Twitter feed and on his website. You can see the links on the screen there, and is just a great resource. So I would highly encourage people to either go and see Mr. Johnson if you have any questions, or listen for scholarship meetings, or check out the websites that he has created. And each year I'm amazed at the number of scholarships that Fleetwood Park secondary students achieve. as they move forward from grade 12 and into their post-secondary experiences. Okay, so with that, that brings us to the end of our presentation. We hope that you found this information valuable in terms of the graduation requirements and systems and processes that will carry your children forward over the next 2 or 3 years and beyond. This is an important and exciting and meaningful time for your entire family. I wanted to close by saying that we're looking forward to working with you and your children. We look forward to having them walk the graduation stage, shake their hands, and congratulate them on a well-deserved achievement of graduation. Please feel free and contact us if you have any questions, as well as our counselors. They're a great resource for you. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.